This is Jerry Meyer with HuntDeerInOhio.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about how a landowner or hunter can count the deer on the property they own or hunt. That's not really what we need to do. It's hard to count deer. Come walk with me. I'll show you what we're going to do. So you want to count the deer on your property? Why? It's not easy to do, and it's not really good information. All it is a moment in time. When you count the deer you see, if you think that's all of them, how do you know you got all of them? But however you would count them, it's just a moment in time. It's not really helpful information. What are you going to learn except you've got X amount of deer on your property? What are you going to do with that information? Then you have to figure out, how am I going to count them? I could use a drone. That's going to be really expensive. The drones I've looked at to have a good infrared camera can be upwards of $10,000. That's a lot of money to spend just to find how many deer are on your property at a given time. And drones are regulated by the FAA. There's limits to how far you can fly them. There's limits to how high you can fly them. And you can only fly them on your own property unless you get permission from other landowners. I suppose you could mark them with a paint gun, but that's going to take a lot of time. And again, how do you know you've marked all the deer on your property? You don't. You could do what's called a snow track bed survey, which I've done, and wait till you get a fresh snow, 3 to 4 inches, starts in the evening, snows overnight, stops sometime during the night, and the next day you go out and walk all your property and look for deer tracks and deer beds. You can get a count of how many deer have been on your property at that point in time, but it doesn't give you information about, were they adult does, were they adult bucks, were they fawns, what were they? You just don't know. What you really need to know is my population increasing? Is it declining? Or is it stable? How do you do that? You do a survey. So you're going to record what you see for a period of time. During the same period every year, I recommend for about 30 days, whenever you choose to do it. The timing of your survey is really important. You want to do it at the same time every year for roughly the same amount of time. Again, I recommend 30 days. Timing is important because most fawns are born in the month of May. And if you count your deer in April this year, that's when there are probably the fewest amount of deer on the landscape before the fawns are born. If you count your deer in June after the fawns are born, that time of the year, there's probably more deer on the landscape than there's going to be the rest of the year. So if you record what you see in one year in April, and in the following year you record your observations in June, it's not comparable information. So you can record what you see with several different methods. One is from your tree stand or blind. You can record every day you're hunting for a 30-day period. Let me show you what I'm talking about. In this scene, we've got a hunter in a tree standing. He's got 3 deer in front of him. The one on the left is an adult doe, although it's hard to tell. The one in the middle is a button buck, and the one on the right is a fawn doe. The deer eventually leave the field, and about a half an hour later, 3 more deer come out in the field at the other end. It's pretty easy to tell the one on the left is probably an adult doe. Can't see any antlers. The other 2, it's hard to tell, although it looks like they're smaller deer. So we're going to call them unknown deer. Little more time goes by. Those 3 deer disappear, and a buck comes out in the field. And the hunter can tell it's a buck, but he can't tell how many points it has. So the question becomes, if you're counting deer, how many total deer did the hunter see? You could say 7, but you could also say at least 4, maybe 5, maybe 6. This demonstrates the point I'm trying to make. So we would record this as 2 adult does, a button buck, a fawn doe, 2 unknown does, and an adult buck with unknown number of points. And that'll give us the beginning of our trends. So instead of using something like a drone or walking your whole property, choose a method to record what you see by letting the deer come to you. For instance, your tree stand. Everything you see out of your tree stand to your blind, those deer are moving, you're stationary. You could use a trail camera. That's what I use, and it works really well. Heck, you can even make observations out your kitchen window. So in each of these 3 window panes, on the left, I see what looks like an 8-point buck, and in the distance above him, I'm going to call those 2 adult does. In the middle pane, I see a buck, but I can't tell how many points he has, 2 adult does, 2 fawns, but I can't tell whether they're button bucks or fawns. And in the right pane, I see another buck. He looks like a 9-point, and I see another fawn, but I can't tell whether it's a button buck or a doe. So where the heck do I record all this information, observations, or whatever it is I'm recording? I developed a form. From about 2005 through about 2017, I managed the hunting on a large property in Athens County. It's 1,200 acres. It was a working farm. The landowners wanted to maintain the deer population about where it was, and the property was leased. There was 13 hunters on it. So I had to come up with a way to determine, again, was my deer population stable? Was it increasing or was it declining? So for the first couple of years, I didn't implement any harvest objectives, and those harvest objectives were for killing adult does. So pretty much for the first 2 years, I let the hunter decide if they were going to kill a doe and how many the group was going to kill. If I recall correctly, the first 2 years, they didn't kill 1 doe per hunter. But after 2 years, we had a lot of information. And that information was telling us that the deer population was increasing. We saw more adult does, we saw more fawns, and we even saw more bucks. So once we started getting that information, I can make some determinations on how many adult does they needed to kill. I recall 1 year that my target was for them to kill 27 adult does. They ended up killing 26. The following year, after we collected our information, and we collected it from the first day of the archery season to the first day of the gun season. So we had about 2 months worth of data to look at. And the following year, after we killed those 26 adult does, it was clear the adult doe population had declined noticeably. And that's what you want. You want to see that type of results. The nice thing about collecting information this way is it can give you an idea of not only what your population is doing, but am I seeing more fawns? Am I seeing more adult bucks? If you take your adult does and adult bucks and compare that, it can give you a decent ratio of the bucks to does. I have this form on my website, which you can download for free. Use it as you please to record whatever you see. So here's the observation form that you can download. There are instructions that come with it, but I don't show those here. So these two rows represent, the top row is the hunter in the tree stand. The second row down is the person looking out their kitchen window. It's got the date, the type of observation, how long they were observing, and what they recorded as far as what they saw. So if this is all you did for an entire season as far as what you collected, which is not enough, but you would have 4 adult bucks, 2 with unknown number of points, 1 with 8, 1 with 9. You would have 6 adult does, 1 button buck, 1 fawn doe, and 5 unknown deer. The unknown deer are the 3 fawns. You know their age, but you don't know their sex. So once you're done compiling information, whether it be for 30 days more or less than that, you compile everything into the 5 categories: adult bucks, adult does, fawn does, button bucks, and unknown deer. And then you try to collect information from the same time period, from the same locations in subsequent years, and that starts to give you your trends on what your population is doing. So I think a good question, a fair question, is how am I qualified to instruct you to do this kind of stuff? Well, I've got a degree in wildlife management. I'm retired from almost 30 years of working for the Ohio Division of Wildlife in the research and wildlife management section. I've live trapped and banded waterfowl, wild turkeys, squirrels, black bears, ruffed grouse. My staff and I were in charge of the wildlife management and research activities on about 150,000 acres of public land in southeast Ohio. While my educational and professional disciplines are focused on wildlife, I have interests in botany, ornithology. I've sold timber on public land. I've sold timber on private land. If you are a landowner watching this and you have interest in the timber on your property, I can evaluate it and give you some advice. And I partner with a business that can consult with you and make professional recommendations on your timber, whether you have any value, whether you want to cut it. I don't think I mentioned it. This is my first YouTube video. So I'm hoping you'll like, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell. While Hunt Deer in Ohio is a business based on hunting leases, and I've been in business for 25 years, I don't want to limit my videos to just topics about hunting leases, although there will be some of those. I plan to make videos about anything you can think of related to property management, habitat management, critter behavior, maybe a little hunting, although there's plenty of those out there. I want feedback. I want ideas from you about videos that I could make. And I may even make some videos about cooking. Have you ever eaten a plate full of squirrel heads with the brain still in them? I have. So let me know what you think. And remember, Do like I always tell my grandson. Use your eyes to look. Use your ears to listen. And when those things get in your head, try to learn something from it. Talk to you later. This is Jerry Meyer, huntdeeronohio.com.